The December wind cut like broken glass, biting through Clara Hayes' coat as she rushed down the frozen Chicago street. Another morning, another silent battle to survive. The city looked silver and cruel. Buses hissed, headlights sliced through the dawn, and hope felt like steam fading in the cold. Her reflection in the glass doors of Devlin and Company looked older than 32, tired eyes that once dreamed, now just endured. Every day she wore the same mask, strength. "Morning, Tom," she told the guard, forcing warmth into her voice. "Morning, Miss Hayes." Cold enough to freeze time itself. "Maybe that wouldn't be so bad," she murmured, pushing through. Fluorescent lights hummed above gray cubicles. Coffee smelled burnt. Ambition smelled fake. The air itself felt rehearsed. She sat before her monitor just as Vivian Cross, head of operations, swept in, perfume sharp, heels sharper. "Clara, investor files." "Before noon," Vivian said without looking up from her phone. "Yes, Ms. Cross." "And Mr. Devlin's walking the floor today. Try to look alive." Clara offered a practiced smile. She'd seen that look before, the kind that ruins Christmas. For people like her. By noon, hunger gnawed at her. She grabbed her paper bag lunch and stepped outside. Snowflakes drifted like ashes over the city's heartbeat. That's when she saw him, a man, crouched near the building wall, wrapped in a shredded coat. His cardboard sign read, "Anything helps." People streamed past, eyes down. Clara stopped. "Sir? You okay?" He looked up, surprised. "Depends on your definition." She almost laughed. "Hungry? I wouldn't say no." She tore her sandwich in half and handed it to him, along with her thermos. "It's chicken noodle. Homemade." He blinked. "You sure?" She nodded, but her throat tightened. She couldn't explain why helping him felt like helping herself. Maybe because somewhere deep down, she still remembered what it felt like to be invisible. He accepted the food gently. "Thank you, miss." "Clara." "Clara," he echoed. "I'm Daniel." "Well, Daniel, keep the thermos. I'll get it back later." "You'd come back. Someone once helped me when I had nothing. Returning the favor feels right." Through the glass doors behind her, Vivian watched. One pair of eyes filled with quiet compassion, the other with quiet threat. The sky darkened early, snow thickening like static. Most desks were empty when Vivian reappeared. "Clara, update the Devlin file tonight." "I can't, my son's waiting." "I promised." "This isn't optional," Vivian said smoothly, the kind of smooth that hides knives. "Unless you'd rather find new work before the holidays." Clara's pulse stumbled. After a desperate call to her neighbor, she stayed. Hours blurred into numbers and cold coffee. At 8, she glanced out the window. Daniel was still there. She grabbed her coat, dashed downstairs, and crossed the street to the diner. Minutes later, she returned with a steaming bag. "You came back," he said, voice trembling. "I said I would." She handed him the food, then unwound her scarf. "Here. You need this more." He shook his head. "You'll freeze." "I've been cold before." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that remembers pain. "Kindness like yours, it's rare." "Maybe it shouldn't be," she whispered. For a heartbeat, the world fell silent. Just snow and two strangers sharing warmth. Then came the sharp echo of heels on marble. "Clara." She turned. Vivian stood behind the revolving door, arms folded. Their eyes met through the glass, one filled with empathy, the other calculation. Back upstairs, Clara's fingers trembled above her keyboard. Something in her gut whispered that this small act of kindness was about to cost her everything. Outside, Daniel watched her vanish into the tower of glass. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a worn wallet, and slid her business card inside. He looked up once more, the place where she'd stood now just footprints in melting snow. But in a city frozen by indifference, one warm act can melt more than snow. It can melt fate itself. Because sometimes, destiny doesn't wait, it watches. The next morning, Chicago felt even colder. Not just in weather, but in spirit. Even the sky looked tired. Clara walked Eli to school, their boots crunching against the snow. His small fingers were warm inside hers, the only warmth she had left. She wished she could hold on to that warmth longer than a walk to school. "Mom," he said, yawning, "when are you not tired?" She smiled faintly. "When we win the lottery." He grinned. "Then I'm buying you a house with a heater that doesn't whistle." She laughed, but her chest ached. Kids dream in color, mothers survive in grayscale. By the time she reached the office, the warmth was gone. Inside, Vivian Cross stood, waiting like a winter storm in heels. "Clara Hayes," she said crisply. "Mr. Devlin wants to see you." Clara's stomach dropped. Now. Each step toward Devlin's office sounded louder than the last, like the hallway itself knew what was coming. The CEO's suite was all glass, marble, and quiet power. Mr. Devlin stood by the window, watching the snow fall over the city. "Ms. Hayes," he said, not turning. "It's been brought to my attention that you've been fraternizing with individuals loitering outside company property." Fraternizing. Her voice trembled. "Feeding, speaking with," and Vivian added smoothly, "giving away branded company property." Her voice cut clean. She enjoyed this. "You mean the thermos? That's mine." "It has the company logo," Vivian said. "That makes it property of Devlin and Company." Clara blinked. "It's a $5 thermos. I'll replace it." Mr. Devlin finally turned, face unreadable. "It's not the item, Ms. Hayes. It's the principle. This is a corporate environment, not a charity." The words hung in the air, colder than the glass between them. "So compassion breaks company policy now?" she asked quietly. Vivian's lips curved. "Watch your tone." "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." "Oh, I'm afraid it won't," Vivian said, enjoying each word. "Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. HR will process your final check." The words hit harder than the winter wind. The office spun around her. Keyboards clicking. People pretending not to stare. The world didn't stop for ruined lives. "You're firing me over a thermos?" she whispered. No one looked at her. Mercy wasn't part of company policy. Mr. Devlin turned back to the window. "You may go." 30 minutes later, Clara stood outside with a cardboard box in her arms. Snow swirled around her like ashes. The laughter of strangers cut through the air, cruel in its normalcy. She turned toward the wall where Daniel had been. He was gone. The wall was bare, only damp cardboard left behind. It was like he'd never existed, just a ghost her kindness had summoned. She set the box down and pressed her hands against her face, tears freezing before they could fall. Somewhere in the blur of headlights and snow, she swore she saw someone watching. The moment passed. The city kept moving. Then a sleek black sedan slowed beside her. The tinted window rolled down. A man in a dark coat looked out. "Ms. Hayes." She hesitated. "Yes. I'm Frank Bennett, personal assistant to Mr. Devlin," he said calmly. "Mr. Devlin would like to meet you tomorrow morning. 11 a.m. He said it's important." Before she could speak, the window rose and the car disappeared into the snow, leaving her alone again, a woman who'd just lost everything, yet somehow held a flicker of something she couldn't name. That night, Clara sat by the window of their tiny apartment. Eli slept on the couch beside her, one hand gripping his toy truck even in dreams. She whispered to the dark, "What if kindness was the worst decision I ever made?" But deep down, another voice whispered back, quieter, steadier, "Or the best one." Outside, the city slept, unaware that fate was already rearranging itself around a single act of compassion. Because sometimes, destiny breaks you before it blesses you. Snow fell heavier the next morning, soft outside, but heavy inside her chest. Clara sat at the kitchen table, the coffee cold before she ever drank it. The laptop glowed with rejection emails she couldn't bring herself to open. She didn't know it yet, but today everything she thought she'd lost was about to shift. Eli patted in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, are you sick?" She shook her head weakly. "Just tired, sweetheart. You don't have to go to work today?" "I've got a meeting," she said, hoping he couldn't hear the fear behind it. He nodded slowly. "Eyes searching hers longer than a child should have to." "Okay," he said softly. "Be careful." When he left for school, she lingered at the window, watching him disappear into the snow. Her reason for everything, walking into a world that didn't care. At 10:30 sharp, a black sedan pulled up outside her building, sleek, silent, out of place in her worn-out neighborhood. A woman stepped out, dressed in a black coat, expression unreadable. "Ms. Hayes. I'm Diana, Mr. Devlin's driver. He's expecting you." Clara followed her into the car, heart pounding. The city passed in streaks of gray and white, each turn leading her farther from the skyline she knew. Her pulse quickened. "Where are we going?" The car finally stopped before a brownstone townhouse, quiet and dignified, its windows glowing amber against the cold. "Mr. Devlin prefers to work from home on Fridays," Diana explained, guiding her inside. The air smelled faintly of cedar and old books, a warmth that didn't belong to her world. Photographs lined the hallway, a younger Devlin beside his parents, then a wedding portrait, then one without the bride. Something about the progression felt like a story unfinished. "Mr. Devlin will see you in the library," Diana said, then disappeared down the hall. The library was vast and warm, lit by firelight that shimmered against leather-bound shelves. A man stood by the hearth, tall, composed, yet strangely familiar. When he turned, the room tilted. Those eyes. The same blue eyes from the snow. "Hello, Clara," he said softly. Her breath caught. "Daniel?" He smiled faintly. "Actually, it's Elias Devlin. But yes, Daniel for a while." Her pulse raced. "You were pretending?" "I was remembering," he said. "Once a year, I step outside this life with nothing but a coat. And a name I make up. No title. No power. Just another man among millions." She blinked, confused and trembling. "Why would you do that?" He looked into the fire. "My father used to say, if you forget what pain feels like, you stop deserving peace. I needed to feel human again." Her voice hardened. "You let me lose everything." "I didn't," he said quietly. "Vivian did, and she no longer works for me." His tone softened. "But maybe you needed to lose something, so I could find someone real." She stared at him, a storm behind her eyes, fury, disbelief, something dangerously close to hope. He reached beside the chair and lifted a familiar thermos, its silver reflecting the firelight. "You gave me this," he said. "Not because you had plenty, but because you didn't. That's the difference." He set it down gently, then slid a folder across the table. A single sheet lay inside. Her name, a title, a number she thought she misread. "It's a job offer," he said simply. "Assistant Director for Community Outreach. A new division. Better pay. Flexibility for Eli. And work that actually changes lives." Clara's throat tightened. "Why me?" "Because when the world looked away, you didn't." The room went silent. Heavy and holy, like time had stopped to listen. Tears welled up, but she blinked them back, afraid the moment might vanish if she cried. Elias smiled faintly. "You reminded me that humanity still exists. I just forgot to look for it." That night, the same sedan carried Clara home through a city reborn in gold and white. Snow whispered against the window, blurring the lights into halos. In her lap lay the folder, and the polished thermos still warm from his hand. For the first time in years, Clara didn't feel lost. She felt chosen. But fate wasn't done testing her yet. The offer that felt like salvation would soon demand everything she had left to give. Because every blessing carries its shadow, and hers was already waiting at her door. Monday morning came with a cleaner kind of cold, sharp, clear, almost forgiving. The kind that makes you believe life can start over. For the first time in months, Clara didn't wake with a weight on her chest, just a nervous hope she barely recognized. She had no idea the day that began with peace would end with a question that shattered. "A big day?" Eli asked, chewing toast. "The biggest," she said, fastening her blouse. "Think I look professional?" He grinned. "You look like a boss." She laughed. The sound startled her. "Then that's what I'll be." In that moment, she didn't just sound different. She felt like the version of herself she'd almost buried. The new office sat by the river, where city noise softened into the sound of water. Sunlight spilled across wooden desks and potted plants. No glass walls. No Steve silence. Just laughter from the break room and coffee that actually smelled like coffee. A woman with dark curls greeted her. Clara Hayes? Welcome. I'm Mara. Feels strange, Clara said, smiling. Everyone's kind. Give it a week, Mara laughed. You'll forget how to be nervous. For the first time, Clara believed that might be true. When Elias entered an hour later, he looked less like a CEO and more like a man who'd put down his armor. Morning, Clara. Settling in. I'm trying not to get lost. Good, he smiled. Getting lost is where the new paths hide. Something in his tone made her heart skip, not out of romance but recognition. They walked through the workspace as he spoke of his vision, community kitchens, microloans, shelters. People don't need sympathy, he said. They need structure, hope with a plan. She nodded. And you trust me with that? I don't trust easily, he replied, but I believe in signs. And sometimes people are one. She didn't answer. She just smiled, and felt something inside her start to heal. Days blurred into rhythm. Coffee rings on reports, late-night calls, laughter in halls. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was building. Every night, Eli asked, "Did you save the world today, Mom?" "Not yet," she'd say. "But I'm getting closer." Still, quiet questions lingered. Why her? Why this job? And what was it about Elias that made the air feel heavier? Whenever he entered a room. One evening, after everyone had gone, she found him in the library corner staring at a photograph. A boy beside a woman whose eyes seemed to hold sunlight. She ran a shelter, Elias said softly. Before she passed, she believed people were good, until the world convinced her otherwise. That's why you do this, Clara said. He nodded, trying to prove her right. His voice didn't crack, but something behind it did. And Daniel, she asked, was that random? He smiled faintly. No. My middle name. She said Daniel meant God is my judge. I guess he wanted to see if I'd pass. Silence lingered, not awkward, but fragile. Later, as Clara packed her bag, Mara appeared by the door. You're doing amazing, she said. People already love you here. Thanks, Clara smiled. Feels strange to be happy again. Mara's eyes flicked toward Elias's office, where a warm light still burned. He's a good man, she whispered. But good men can carry dangerous ghosts. The words stayed like frost on Clara's skin. Outside, the night air felt sharper than before, like the cold itself had started watching her. The train hummed softly on her way home. Streetlights blurred past the window. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. 6 words glowed on the screen, enough to drain the color from her face. Do you really know who you're working for? The train clattered through the dark, her reflection trembling in the glass. Calm eyes. Shaking hands. The kindness that saved her life might be hiding a truth that could break it again. Sometimes the light that guides you home is coming from someone else's fire. The message haunted her all night. Do you really know who you're working for? She read it over and over until the screen dimmed. No number. No name. Just 6 words. Quiet, poisonous, curling around her thoughts like smoke. By morning, she tried to convince herself it was a prank. Spam. Anything but real. Even while packing Eli's lunch and kissing his forehead, her smile felt fragile, rehearsed. Mom, Eli said, frowning. You look worried. I'm fine, she forced out. Just tired. Her chest tightened anyway, alert, like walking on ice that could give way at any moment. At work, the building gleamed, sunlight sharp on glass walls. Laughter echoed too long. Mara's glance toward Elias lingered, then darted away, hurried, guilty. Clara's stomach knotted. Something was off. That afternoon, Elias called her into his office. He stood by the window, backlit by pale winter sun, city reflections behind him. Calm. Composed, untouchable. Clara, he said softly, you've accomplished more in 2 weeks than most people manage in a year. Thank you, she murmured. He studied her. Something's different today. Just a rough night. Still thinking about your firing? No, something else. A pause. His patience stretched like invisible tension. I got a message, she finally said. From an unknown number. It said. He raised a hand, calm but firm. You don't need to worry about that. She blinked. You know what it said? His eyes softened, yet the shadow in them made her chest tighten. I have enemies, he said quietly. People resent how I run things. They unsettle those close to me. Those close to me. Words heavier than she expected. I just don't want Eli or me involved. You're safe, he interrupted. Completely safe. He smiled, the kind that should have reassured her. But it didn't. Something in it carried history she didn't yet understand. That night, passing the library, Clara noticed the photo of Elias and his mother was gone. In its place, a new photo, him older beside a man in a business suit. The frame looked freshly, moved edges dust-free. She shouldn't ask, but her mind refused to stop. The next morning, she arrived early. Fog curled outside like ghosts. She walked toward the lower archives, not snooping, she told herself, just organizing. The cabinet labeled Founding Records opened, and a familiar name stared back, Vivian Cross. Her pulse froze. Contracts, reports, letters, one line made her throat catch. Funds reallocation approved by E. Devlin and V. Cross, cover project, urban outreach. Division. The very program she now ran. Before she could think, the door creaked. Early morning reading? Elias's voice was calm, too calm. She turned, folder trembling. I was just. He stepped closer, eyes steady, cold in the half-light. That's old paperwork. Irrelevant now. I saw her name, Clara whispered. Vivian's. Why was she part of this foundation? He looked past her, toward the fogged window. Betrayal comes easy when money's involved. There was pain in his tone, and something darker, heavier. Guilt? Secrets buried beneath. Steel. That night, another message arrived. No words, just a photo. Elias smiling beside Vivian Cross. Timestamp. 1 week ago. Her hands shook. Phone slipped to the floor with a clatter that echoed through the apartment. Thunder rolled across the city. Lights flickered. Even the storm seemed to be watching. Sometimes the ghosts we see in others are the ones they've already buried. And Clara knew, somewhere deep down, the warmth that had saved her life could soon become the fire that burned it all away. Glass. The city woke gray and brittle, frost curling along streetlights, the kind of morning that pressed cold fingers into Clara's chest and refused to let go. She clutched her thermos like a talisman, but its warmth barely reached her fingertips. The message from last night echoed relentlessly. Elias and Vivian, a week ago. Inside the outreach office, silence sat too heavily. Mara's chair swiveled slowly, eyes sharp and wary. You okay? She asked softly. Clara forced a smile. Just thinking. Mara hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. Better keep thinking where it's safe. Clara didn't ask what she meant. Safe, a word she realized she could no longer trust. By mid-morning, Elias called her to the library corner. He stood by the tall window, pale. Winter sunlight cutting lines across his face. Calm. Polished. But Clara felt something beneath that calm, like ice shifting under glass. Clara, he said softly. I hear you've been looking into old files. She froze. I was organizing. Nothing else. He stepped closer. Clara, some truths are like storm clouds. You can see them coming, but you can't outrun the rain. Her pulse quickened. Words pressed against her chest like shards of ice. Are you saying? Vivian, she whispered. He nodded slowly, eyes distant. She was part of the foundation from the start. Handled finances, approvals, oversight. I trusted her. And now, he said quietly, I am untangling the consequences of misplaced trust. Some alliances leave shadows longer than others. Shadows, consequences. Clara felt the weight of every glance, every phrase, every secret layered over the past week. Warmth, safety, honesty, everything she had trusted, now felt fragile, like glass teetering in the wind. I don't know who to believe, she admitted. He studied her for a long moment. Believe in your instincts. Always. And remember, danger doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from ghosts you thought were gone. The office phone rang. Sharp. Urgent. Elias answered, and Clara pressed herself against the library shelves, heart hammering, as she watched his expression flicker, barely, almost imperceptibly. Complications, he said after hanging up, voice steady again. Vivian has contacts. People who may try to interfere with the outreach programs. Nothing personal. But you and Eli could become collateral if I misstep. Her stomach lurched. Collateral? For helping people. He gave a faint, rueful smile. Even good intentions can be dangerous when money and power collide. The day blurred. Reports, meetings, endless paper shuffling. But Clara's mind kept returning to the shadows, the lines in Elias's face she hadn't seen before, the phone buzzing in her pocket. By evening, the snow returned, thick, heavy, relentless. Clara stepped outside, scarf wrapped tight. Across the street, city lights shimmered in puddles and ice. The cold pressed in, mirroring the unease settling deep in her chest. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A video. Hands trembling, she tapped it. The screen filled with her office, herself, moving through the archives. Then a shadow shifted behind her. Someone else. Not Elias. Not Mara. Watching. Waiting. Her breath caught. Snowflakes landed on the screen, scattering the light into jagged prisms. She dropped the phone. Somewhere beneath the glass and steel of the city, danger pulsed. Quiet, patient, inevitable. She could feel it, like a heartbeat beneath frozen streets. And yet she would not run. She had given warmth when she had none, face fear when it froze her bones. Whatever came next, she would face it. For Eli, for herself, for the fragile hope she had built. Storms pass. But the strength to endure them, that is forged in ice and shadow. Clara didn't yet know. The storm beneath the glass was only beginning. Some truths could destroy everything she had rebuilt. And some ghosts were ready to step out of hiding. And in the darkened city, they were already moving. Snow fell in thick, silent sheets over Chicago, muffling the city into stillness. Clara stood at the window of her apartment, Eli asleep on the couch beside her, breathing even and small. Outside, the world was white and quiet, but inside, her mind raced with everything that had happened. The kindness, the betrayal, the shadows lurking beneath smiles. Her phone buzzed, sharp against the winter quiet. A message from Elias. Meet me at the outreach office. Now. No hesitation. She grabbed her coat, pressed the thermos against her chest like armor, and ran through streets slick with ice and snow. Each step a crack against the silence. The office was empty, the sunlight pale and falling in long, deliberate slats across wood floors and tall windows. Every sound, her boots, the rustle of her coat, seemed magnified. Elias waited in the library corner, arms folded, expression unreadable but magnetic. Clara, he said softly, you've been brave. I had to know the truth, she replied, voice firm despite the cold biting her cheeks. I can't help people if I don't know who I'm working for. His eyes darkened, heavy with unspoken memories. Then it's time you see everything. He led her to a small locked cabinet, sliding it open with a soft click. Inside, files stacked neatly, photographs, letters, reports, and at the bottom, a folder that made her breath catch. Vivian Cross, Network Overview. She's been trying to sabotage the outreach programs, Elias explained quietly, voice low as if the walls themselves could hear. Money, influence, threats. She never stopped. Even after leaving the company, she kept watching. Clara's hands shook. And the messages? The video. Warnings, he said. Tests. A ghost from the past. But you weren't afraid. You faced it. Anyway. Her chest swelled. I couldn't let fear control me. Not for Eli. Not for anyone who needs help. For a moment, silence settled between them, thick as snow piled on empty streets. Then, Elias stepped closer, eyes searching hers. You gave me warmth when I had none, he said. You reminded me who I wanted to be. And now, I want to protect you. Both of you. Something fragile, tentative, broke open inside her. Trust. Real fragile human trust. Together, she whispered. Together, he echoed, voice steady, warm, unshakable. That night they acted. Clara coordinated volunteers, schedules, and logistics, while Elias dismantled the threats from Vivian's network. Emails blocked, donors reassured, programs secured. By morning, the office buzzed with life again. Calm, focused, alive. Clara watched from the window as Eli played in the snow outside. Laughter ringing across the courtyard like tiny bells. The cold, once threatening, now felt different, a veil lifting, revealing possibility. Elias approached, holding something small, familiar. A polished thermos, the same one she had given him weeks ago. I've kept this, he said softly, handing it to her. A reminder that even in the harshest winter, kindness can spark a fire strong enough to melt everything in its path. Clara gripped it tightly. It's more than that. It's proof that what we do matters. He smiled, quiet, steady, warmth reaching deep. And you matter more than you. No. Outside, the city glittered under fresh snow. Streets were washed clean, lights reflecting. Hope scattered in every direction. Clara realized that every act of courage, every choice to give, to trust, to love, it had led her here. She turned to Elias. What now? He took her hand gently. Now we build. For the people who need us, for the world that, too, often looks away. And we do it together. Clara exhaled, letting tension fall away. Peace settled. For Eli, for herself, for the city that had once seemed cold and cruel. And beneath the falling snow, she felt it, the invisible pulse of redemption. A storm had passed, leaving light, warmth, and the promise of everything yet to come. Kindness had saved her. Courage had guided her. And love, quiet, steadfast, unspoken, had rewritten her destiny. Snow fell on, soft, endless, luminous, as Clara Hayes stepped forward into a life she had earned and chosen, in the cold, radiant heart of the city.